Our chalice lighting today comes from Thich Nhat Hanh's Love Letters to the Earth. Dear Mother, wherever there is soil, water, rock, or air, you are there, nourishing me and giving me life. You are present in every cell of my body. My physical body is your physical body, and just as the sun and stars are present in you, they are also present in me. You are not outside of me, and I am not outside of you. You are more than just my environment. You are nothing less than myself. Your children include the clear lake, the green pine, the pink cloud, the snow-capped mountaintop, the fragrant forest, the white crane, the golden deer, the extraordinary caterpillar, and every brilliant mathematician, skilled artisan, and gifted architect. You are the greatest mathematician, the most accomplished artisan, and the most talented architect of all. The simple branch of cherry blossoms, the shell of a snail, and the wing of a bat all bear witness to this amazing truth. My deep wish is to live in such a way that I am awake to each of your wonders and nourished by your beauty. I cherish your precious creativity, and I smile at this gift of life. I love this community. All right. So all those who are young of body or feeling young of spirit this morning or who are accompanying them are invited to come forward. Anyone's feeling young of body and spirit? I know that some of our kiddos had some games this morning. So, does anyone remember? Well, actually, do you remember Blueberry? This is Blueberry. The kiddos named Blueberry. Yeah. And I don't know if you remember, Blueberry was nice and new and looked great. And now, not so much. Blueberry's looking a little bit more well-loved. So I wanted to explain what happened to Blueberry. And I'll have to talk to all the kids about this, but there's some kids out here, and it goes for you all too. So the mishap with Blueberry. Last week I went to put Blueberry in the microwave to warm. Blueberry is made to do this. This is not. I wasn't just being evil, but no. Blueberry is sort of this warm, like heat pack material, and you can put Blueberry in the microwave for a few minutes, and then nice and warm to hug. It's great. So I went to do that. And when I went to put Blueberry in, I noticed someone had forgotten a big plate of food in there from the night before. And I took the food and I threw it out so no one would get sick. And I put Blueberry in and I added, a minute. But I didn't notice the time that was already on the timer from the food that someone had forgotten to cook, right? So I added my, 30 seconds, minute, whatever. Walked away, left Blueberry in there, and after a few minutes, someone started to smell smoke. And I went over, and Blueberry was sort of smoldering. And then I realized the smoke was increasing. Blueberry was starting to smoke. And this was getting browner, and I realized we were going to have a Blueberry fire on our hands if I didn't act. So I turned on the water, and I put Blueberry under the water and put out the fire. But now Blueberry is, kind of a little worse for the wear.
Not to mention the stench.
Yeah, and the smell is not, now it's sort of toasty lavender instead. So I thought this was a good time to talk about what we do when people make a mistake. So first I want to say that I'm sorry, especially to the kids, because I should have paid closer attention to how long Blueberry was in the microwave. And then I want to ask you, especially the kids, if there's anything I can do to help make this better. And the grown-ups can answer too, or the kids can whisper to their grown-ups if they're feeling shy. Yeah.
I had suggested that the Army have a session on making a pair of pants for Blueberry.
An interesting idea. A pair of pants for Blueberry. I think we might be able to do that, right?
You can call it strawberry pants.
They could have a strawberry pattern, yeah. I would be happy to finance some fabric to make pants for Blueberry.
I think just letting us know that he's okay.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah. Yeah, I think we are okay,
my kids will be happy.
yeah.
You get some of that lavender scent oil, maybe?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of like just,
Cover up the,
it's kind of like try to restore it.
yeah. Yeah, I like that. I think I even have some at home. Yeah.
Or a little cologne would be good.
We can have the kids vote on what smell they want now. All right. Well, I'm happy to do those things, and if the kids have other ideas, I'm happy to try and do those things too. You know, and one of the ways that Unitarian Universalism is special is that all throughout history, we focused a lot on believing that people can learn and change. And we're not just good or bad, and that's like the end of the story, that's it. We can always keep trying to do better. And that's part of why we have church. We have something called a covenant, and that's like a promise to work together. And that covenant says we'll try to help each other keep learning and growing. So from the Blueberry incident, I learned that I need to pay better attention with other people's things. So I'm going to try and do better next time. And I hope that feels okay to the kiddos, and we can keep helping each other learn. As the children and their adult religious leaders depart for religious exploration, let us sing them on their way with As You Go. The words are in your order of service.
We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go, to nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go.
The reading, I Want to Be with People, is by Reverend Dana E. Worsnop. I want to be with people who value compassion, justice, love, and truth, though they have different thoughts and opinions about all sorts of things. I want to be with people who see me in my goodness and dignity, who also see my failings and foibles, and who still love me. I want to be with people who feel their interaction with all existence and let it guide their footfalls upon the earth. I want to be with people who are willing to walk the tightrope that is life and who will hold my hand as I walk mine. I want to be with people who let church call them into a different way of being in the world. I want to be with people who covenant to be honest, engaged, and kind, who strive to keep their promises and hold me to the promises that I make. I want to be with people who know that human community is often warm and generous, sometimes challenging, and almost always a grand adventure. In short, I want to be with people like you.
Our anthem today is going to be played. It's a video by an artist named Chal Ferez. It says piano, but he plays violin. I believe there's piano in there as well. But please enjoy this acoustic cover of Britney Spears' Toxic.
It's common these days to hear people referred to as toxic. Trash, a trash fire, a dumpster fire, you get the idea. People declare their former partners, their families of origin, their friends, and even themselves, toxic. There is an entire genre of articles and videos devoted to determining people's degree of toxicity. And maybe it's toxic to say this, but it's a little exhausting. Sometimes all it takes to be considered toxic is to have some symptoms of depression. And there can be a consumerist approach to other people implied there. The people I surround myself with should always serve me. If they aren't providing good service, I should go buy a new community. There is a utility to understanding when a relationship is dangerous, when abuse is occurring, and when a behavior or way of thinking is harmful. There are reasons to criticize harmful behavior and ideas. But the problem is when we stop criticizing harmful ideas and behaviors and start labeling people. Culturally, it is very easy for us to fall into that all or nothing thinking about human worth. It's a Calvinist idea again, the Puritans brought. You're saved or you're not. And that's not to say that we throw ethics and morality out the window. The opposite of Calvinism isn't nihilistic thinking that sides with whoever happens to have the power. But I think there's a way to find a balance between recognizing abuse and giving up on people. For me, part of what it means to be a universalist is never giving up on anyone. That's a tough pill to swallow, isn't it? But as I often say, our faith isn't a social club. It asks us to do hard things sometimes. And it can be hard. But we can set boundaries with those who are abusive, violent, or harmful to us without dehumanizing them. We can even refuse to have contact with people without needing to declare them inherently and wholly depraved and useless. Religious messages of forgiveness can be used in really harmful ways when they're used to ask us to let ourselves be subjected to ongoing abuse or deny us the ability to set boundaries. So I want to be clear, we don't need to continue to spend time with an abusive family member or stay in an abusive marriage because we're not giving up on them. We cannot give up from a distance sometimes. But when I see people refer to another person as toxic, as trash, it really makes me wonder what we're doing. Dehumanizing people, judging them in a total way, and refusing to understand their perspective is the first step down a really dark path. I don't mean that all opinions are good opinions, or all behavior should be tolerated. We just seem to have such a hard time differentiating between tolerating harmful behavior and recognizing the humanity of the people acting that way. There are ideas that are toxic. That doesn't mean that the people who hold them are garbage. Take the concept of toxic masculinity. For those of you who haven't heard the term, toxic masculinity is not masculinity itself, which is obviously not inherently harmful. There's no problem with many aspects of traditional masculinity, offering protection to those weaker than you, courtesy, ties. But toxic masculinity is the twisted version of masculinity that equates femininity with inferiority and constantly polices men with a threat that if they wear one wrong thing, listen to one wrong song, enjoy one wrong hobby, walk or talk or eat or sit wrong, they'll be subjected to dehumanization and maybe even violence. That's toxic. It is absolutely true that this view of the world is harmful. It is true that it can destroy mental health and make people dangerous. It is true that we shouldn't entertain the idea that maybe it is good to beat your partner or harass men who use Band-Aids. But we don't have to excuse harm to take the time to understand its context and see the people who perpetuate that harm for their humanity. Those who perpetuate toxic masculinity are never doing so because they feel content with themselves, at peace, full of a sense of meaning and deep connection to others. They feel alone, worried that they're worthless, and dependent on trying to control and harm others to gain a sense of power where they're missing a sense of goodness and being cared for. When I see a man who is obsessed with proving his masculinity, I see someone who is never told that he as a person versus some imaginary image of manhood was valuable. I see someone who was never accepted for who he was and who never learned how to connect to others. It's very sad. Does my empathy for someone like that mean I think we should allow them to abuse people? No. I may well avoid someone like that for my own safety. I will advocate for a society that limits these kinds of dangerous ideologies. But I will also maintain that despite the toxic ideologies they can't let go of, the people who hold them are not themselves toxic. They still have infinite human potential. If they decided to, they could become deeply kind and helpful to others. I'm not going to enable harm while I'm waiting for that. I will do what I can to change institutions that allow it and set the boundaries I need to set. But I also can't see the world clearly if I ignore the scared, miserable human behind the harm. And I won't be able to change those harmful aspects of our culture if I don't understand why they're appealing to people. It never helps combat an ideology to believe that the people who adhere to it don't have some internal logic, that they're somehow less human than we are in their way of deciding who to be and how to act. We all have stories that we tell ourselves, and they make sense to us. When I'm feeling frustrated by someone's behavior, I often try to think of the ways that I do something like what they're doing. During the early days of COVID, there were those people who refused to do anything to mitigate spread. And as someone who was a frontline worker, I was pretty furious about it. But what helped me was to think about the reasons I have done selfish things in my life. Well, that was humbling, because it got pretty easy to understand the people I was judging pretty fast. I still think they should have made different choices, but I don't see myself as better than them. Maybe they were being selfish, but I have bought plenty of plastic doodads that sacrifice the well-being of countless others for my own convenience or momentary entertainment. What could be said of the morality of buying a chocolate bar that relied on children's slave labor, when I could just as easily have made a donation to a starving child instead? Would an impartial observer, not wrapped up in our partisan preconceptions and political identities, really think that I'm less selfish or kinder? There is a beam in my own eye to attend to before I decide that someone else is to blame for the suffering in the world. I'm learning when I see a flaw in someone else to look at how that flaw is manifesting in me. When we look at people who have bought into toxic ideologies or patterns of harm, I think it's actually dangerous to imagine that we're entirely different from them. Because if we believe that we have nothing in common with them, we'll be vulnerable to exactly the same kind of behavior. If we believe that it's okay to abuse someone as long as they're a bad and harmful kind of person, All it takes to turn us into a monster is to convince us that some person or group is bad and harmful. If our ethical true north is that no one deserves to suffer, we make so much more room for transformation and are much less likely to end up the kind of person who, as the saying goes, opposes every war and supports every civil rights movement except the ones happening now. We should ask ourselves, what is our plan for those people who we make into an enemy because of the harm they do, or that we imagine they do? Is it to meet them as equals and help them transform? Or is it to make them a permanent enemy so we can solidify a feeling of superiority or absolve ourselves of responsibility for the lessons we need to learn and the changes we need to make in our own lives? If it's transformation, we'll need to know how to do that through our own experience, and that means doing our own transformative work. We've become so capitalist in our approach to other human beings that we often treat frustrating people as disposable, as literal trash, or at least an inferior product to be replaced. But there's no way to build community with that approach. No way to come together and learn from each other and grow. No room for all the weirdness and messy complexity of humanity. Just a retreat into smaller and smaller bubbles and a very lonely world. There are people who do harm that must be challenged. But do we do anything but make more of a mess by blaming them, dividing everybody into good and bad, right and wrong kinds of people? Does that serve the world? We shouldn't tolerate views and actions that dehumanize us or others, but I think we can still love people despite them. And we can recognize the difference between imperfect and irredeemable. May we never give up on each other. Amen.
It is time for our offering. We have received freely of gifts that minister to our needs of body and spirit. May we now give gladly a portion of that bounty. 2/3 of the cash offering will support our congregation. The remaining 1/3 will go to support our justice cause. This month, it is Loudon Wildlife Conservancy. Loudon Wildlife Conservancy is a local all-volunteer nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting the preservation and proliferation of healthy wildlife habitats throughout Loudoun County. If you are in the sanctuary, you may place your donations in the baskets as they are passed. Donations may also be made via the donate button in the virtual order of service, by mail, or via the donate tab on the UUCS homepage. Please note when your donation is towards your pledge. Thank you for your generosity to our congregation and to our community.
As we prepare to conclude our service, you are invited to reach out your hands and hearts into the space of this community, to join in a virtual circle inclusive of all. First, let us extinguish our chalice while we carry forth its light in our hearts. Please join us in our covenant. This congregation is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences and beneath all our diversities, there is a unity that binds us together and makes us one in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We pause now in silent witness to that unity.
May we learn from our enemies. May we make friends with the world. May we build beloved community.